The next thing that I would like to show you is how you can retrieve a single cell from a table. I'm not yet going to retrieve the entire table. I'm just interested in one specific cell value. This could come in handy in case the vendor has defined tables where, for instance, your inputs, outputs are in there, and you know for sure, could be hardware linked, that there will only be one input, maybe two outputs. Once you know what the primary key is, you could say, I'm going to just point out to that cell and I'm going to display it as a standalone parameter. So my layout will be nicer. I wouldn't need to show a table with just one row or just two rows. I could show it as this is my input and these are my two outputs with their information in there. So let's go to our Visual Studio again and have a look at how we can do this. Now for this, I'm not going to use the generator. I'm going to use a different way how to include your parameters in there. So let's go to the interfaces table. Just going to use this for the example. Normally you're going to retrieve your interface table and not just something as a standalone parameter. For instance, I'm going to showcase the IF type of my interface ID1. As you can see, I have to fill in the parameter ID. Before we used the generator, and then we had the parameter IDs created for us. So let's just add this as 13. So it's the following in line. And let's also include maybe the admin status as parameter ID 14. We're not using the generator, so we still need to include these parameters into our group. I could make an extra group or include them in here. So let's just make an extra group so you can see this as well. Let's use the snippets, protocol group, and let's go for the SNMP group. Now what's the difference? For SNMP group, it will already include the multiple get equal to true. So let's include, let's maybe call this group 11, and these are my get interface. Let's call this get interface. And I'm going to add param 13 and I had a second one, param 14. This group is not included yet in a timer, so let's also include it in the fast timer. Group and include our group 11. Well, I could say 11, maybe I should rephrase it. Where's my group? There he is. I could rephrase it to 13, or I can use a different range of parameter IDs for my interfaces, but let's just keep it as it is for now. We have our timer, we have groups in there. Our group 11 in this case has parameter 13 and 14, and I just drag and drop them from my table. Do you think this will work? We might have all of the components in there. Let's have a look how it behaves. I didn't add them to any displayed page yet, so let's have a look in our stream viewer what's happening in there. I already know I should be receiving the system description, and so that's my group 10. What's going on in here? For some reason, I'm getting no such object. This means that the OID that we are requesting doesn't exist in my equipment or my data source. But now I know for sure that this does exist, so I must have made a mistake somewhere. So let's go and have a look in our parameter description. It's basically the same as we had before, so let's try and compare it a bit. I don't have the display yet, I just need to know. Let's just zoom out or zoom in a bit on the important part, which is the SNMP. So for an item that does work, I see I have my OID and it has a .0 at the end. When I go to my MIP browser and have a look, in this case it's the system location, that's the OID, but this doesn't include the .0. So this is new. And when I have a look on my IF type, I have my OID, which is also in my MIP. Let's go for type. This is in my MIP, but it doesn't have the .0. So why did the generator, the wizard, add a .0 at this specific parameter? Well, it did so on all the standalone parameters. So these are single parameters. There's only one instance of this. And we start counting at 0, so we have 0 as instance. An instance, that's the amount of items you can have for that particular component. So in a table, you can have multiple rows. That means we need to define what the primary key is. So you have .1. As I said, I want to retrieve the type of interface 1. This is not just first row, this is my primary key. Could be that my primary key is, for instance, 1.1.1, and I can keep on typing. This is my primary key. Imagine I would have a IP address as primary key. Then you will have something like this. So let's add the .1. This is my first row. The primary key has the value 1. And I'm going to retrieve the same thing. Let's collapse this. It's a bit too much. I will do the same thing for the admin status. I also want to receive that information for my row with primary key instance ID number 1. Let's publish this. Again, I didn't add it on the screen, so I will not see it, but I will see a change in, or I should be seeing a change in my stream viewer. So let's wait a bit until it's receiving information. So here you go. Now you can see I have information and not just no such object. Now let's include it to our display. Let's maybe add it over here. And publish it again so we can really see the changes in our element card. Let's refresh the card, make sure that we have the latest changes. So here we go, we have our IF interface type, and it's called Ethernet CSMACD. We can change this layout a bit, and we also have our admin status, which is 0. We should also change the layout of this.